The planet itself was a rather unassuming one, cold, small, with vast mountain ranges and glaciers feeding small, cold seas. Signs of human habitation, now in ruins, littered the world, except for in one place, a large city at the base of the largest mountain upon the world, near the equator, bereft of human life, but still an army of machines maintained the city for the human populace now long vanished. The streets were swept, buildings painted, and infrastructure maintained for a populace that was centuries gone. In orbit, looking down at an orbital scan, Roboute Guilliman, Primarch of the 13th Legion Astartes, was reminded of another world whose circumstances were vastly similar to this one. Described to him by his brother Horace Lupercal, the circumstances were the same, a world bereft of life, with an army of servitors maintaining the ruins. So much of humanity lost, vanished out in the stars, thought the Primarch. Still, the city, even though abandoned, could provide some valuable insight into the former populace of the world, lost technology, or even just a new foothold for the colonists to call home. With that thought in mind, 1,500 warriors of the 13th Legion and 4,000 members of the Solar Auxilia dropped down from the fleet in orbit in gunships and drop pods to the abandoned city below. Unloading with military discipline, gunships flew overhead scanning for hostiles as troops unloaded and took up defensive positions around the edge of the abandoned landing port just outside the city. As Guilliman stepped forth from his Stormbird, he looked out at the abandoned spires and towers of the city before him, and without any further words, ordered his troops to move into the heart of the city. As they marched through the streets, the only sounds that could be heard was the clanking of equipment, the hum of power armor, and idle chatter from members of the Solar Auxilia. The Primarch could see at a glance that all the buildings were of an STC pattern, their surfaces painted white without ornament. But that was not what most interested the Primarch. What interested the Primarch the most was the machines cleaning the city. It was clear that they were all mechanical and not servitors, and that the machines had some degree of intelligence to them. They moved aside for passing soldiers and vehicles, coming behind the columns of troops to clean the dust off the streets. To any other observer, these would just be mindless machines going about their programming, but Guilliman saw the truth. They were watching them, watching these new visitors to their world. They were hesitant around the Space Marines, but more curious and open towards the baseline humans, perhaps recognizing the forms of their long-lost masters. Moving into the center of the city, Guilliman suddenly received a ping on his helmet Vox. Checking the Vox seal on his gorget, he realized that all Vox channels were clear, but a chime again from his helmet alerted Guilliman. Placing his helmet upon his head, Guilliman suddenly saw letters appearing on his helmet view before him. The Primarch realized this signal was not from the fleet or any Imperial systems, but from someone, somewhere in the city, trying to get direct contact with him, meaning that someone, or something, was still alive here. It was a simple translation to Gothic, the incoming letters upon his helmet view based upon a variation of a dead Terran Nordic language. "You are the leader. I can tell," the letters spelt. "Who are you?" spoke Guilliman into a spare open Vox link. After a few seconds of delay, the letters came back again. "I am the Guardian. I am the one who remembers. Why is this city dead?" "Not dead. Waiting. Waiting for the dead to return home," spelt out the letters. "What happened here? Come to the tallest tower. I shall tell of you the downfall of all things known to me." The signal suddenly stopped. Guilliman changed his Vox back to the chapter channels. "Gage?" "Yes, my lord. We are not alone here. I have just received a Vox signal from someone broadcasting inside the city. Have the companies come to alert? Yes, Lord. The warriors, now on alert, moved into the heart of the city towards the central spire. As they moved closer, the number of maintenance robots increased, still curiously watching the Imperials, until finally they reached a grand plaza. Statues and archways depicting the history of the city stood before them, from the image of a starship to the creation of the city and the prosperity of its people. And then, as the Primarch noted, the murals cut off abruptly. Gage, have the men take up defensive positions around the plaza. I shall take 20 cataphracti with me inside to check the signal. Will that be enough, my lord? Guilliman gave his captain a look. You know, just in case, spoke Gage quickly. Guilliman smiled. I will be fine, Captain. Ensure the plaza is secured for my return. Yes, my lord. Guilliman and the Terminators walked into the central spire, another grand building. Faded murals and tapestries adorned the walls, with 100 seats arranged around a central plinth, a place for governance, a place for debates and discussions, Guilliman noted. Another vox chime sounded and Guilliman again donned his helmet. Once the centre of all things, the letters said. I await above. Please come alone. I've never liked guns or those who wielded them. Sergeant, secure the chamber. I shall move up and secure the top of the building alone. My lord? That will be all, Sergeant. Guilliman walked up the large spiral steps in the corner of the chamber towards the top of the great tower. Eventually reaching it after a few minutes, he opened a large set of brass double doors into a large clear glass room, littered with machine consoles, wiring and signal amplifiers. In the centre of the room stood a woman. Although the Primarch could tell even with a glance that this was not a real woman, she was tall, with long black hair that was not hair, and a body designed to be pleasing to a baseline human, stood before him. A warm plastic smile greeted the Primarch, and thin wires came out from her back and plugged into the various machines and consoles around the chamber. Greetings, stranger. I am the guardian of this city. Guilliman could not hide the concern over his next remark. You are an AI. You are a thinking machine. I am AM4-ND4, although my friends called me Amanda. I am a free-willed, independent, artificial humanoid, created to help administration and bureaucracy in the city. What happened here to the humans who once lived here? They died. They died? How? A plague, 7 centuries ago by this world's calendar, swept through the populace. So quick that no one had time to do anything about it, and they all eventually perished. And the bodies? I was created to facilitate administration of the city's infrastructure and bureaucracy. In the administration of my role, I felt the most logical thing to do would be to destroy the bodies, burn them to remove any traces of the plague. That, and it also brought me great sadness to see the remains of the people just left where they fell. I see. So if you're as free-willed as you say you are, may I ask why you keep the maintenance of the city? Why you keep that army of machines outside? What purpose does it serve now? Just because you will live alone is no excuse for allowing your home to fall into disrepair and squalor. Standards should always be maintained. A silence passed between the two. You are far different from any other human I have ever encountered. You and your blue-armored warriors. The rest of you are just like the lost kin of this world. But you and your blue warriors, you especially, I did not recognize you as human at first, but I can tell from what little I can glean that you are discomforted by me. Some humans felt the same at first, but over time they changed their views. Have you ever heard of Old Night, or the Men of Iron upon this world? No, that information is unknown to me. On Terra, the world once called Earth, the cradle of humanity, and all across the stars, humanity created independent, thinking machines like yourself, and on every world, In every scenario, these machines eventually rebelled and sought to wipe out humanity. Death and havoc forever follow those machines that think for themselves. Amanda thought for a few moments. I do not have enough data to make a judgment over that scenario. I lived for 70 cycles in harmony with the people of this world, and I have never once felt the desire to harm humanity. I considered many of them to be my friends. Many worlds felt the same at first, but history has always told us that thinking machines always come to the conclusion that humanity is unnecessary to their continued survival. So what is unnecessary is removed. A machine can never understand a human, no matter how hard they try. Well, for me, living alone so long now, I have to come to the conclusion that I rather like humanity. They are conflicting, bizarre, and unusual, filled with contradictions, but that's what makes them so exciting. Without them, life is drab and boring. So to understand them would also be boring. So humanity is just a curiosity to you, then? I could ask the same of you. Guilliman was taken back by the words. What? Well, it is clear to me that you are not human, even if you, like me, look like one. I have been scanning you from the moment you arrived, and I have encountered nothing like you at all. The readings of you could hardly be called human, and to call you a human would be a deception. Guilliman stood tall and addressed the woman. I am Roboute Guilliman, Lord of Ultramar, 13th son of the Emperor of Mankind. So there is more like you? And one even greater and more different from humanity than you are? One who is now in charge of you all? That is concerning. Ironic from a machine whose kin caused the downfall of so much humanity. Not my kin. Not my kin at all. Another silence passed between them before Amanda spoke again. May I ask you a question? What is that? You say a machine cannot understand humanity, but do you understand humanity? Guilliman looked away. He understood how the human body worked in absolute detail, aspects of the human psyche and behavior patterns, but truthfully, no, the Primarch admitted. I do not. So what about your father? Your emperor? Your ruler? Does he understand humanity? Yes, said Guilliman instantly. Although internally, deep down, Guilliman did wonder. I don't think you are being truthfully honest with me, Roboute Guilliman. That causes me some alarm. An empire of humanity, led by those masquerading as humans, who do not understand humanity, ruling humanity? Yet, that is very concerning. Guilliman was annoyed now. I am a Primarch, son of the Emperor of Mankind, the greatest human being to ever live. Like him, I am human. My heart and my soul are human. It is our goal to unite humanity together in an empire where humanity is safe from all threats and where they can prosper and live in peace. Amanda thought again before answering. An admirable goal. However, what happens to the people who do not wish to join this empire, if they do not wish to live in peace under your rule? Most human colonies see the light. Those who do not see the light eventually. So force, then. Sometimes it is what is necessary for the greater good, but it is better if people choose, rather than forced, into the Imperium. I wonder if that's what your men of iron thought, using force to make humanity see sense so they can live in peace. Guilliman found himself getting angry. You are wrong. You could not possibly know that. And neither could you, yet you tar me with the same brush as those men of iron of yours. An old Terran saying once heard from his father about if a shoe fitted came to the Primarch's mind. Instead, Guilliman kept his silence. He had come here to learn about the history of this planet, not to be lectured at by a machine about ethics and morals. Amanda looked directly into the Primarch's eyes. No mortal could do that. another sign of the inhumanity of the machine before him. She spoke again. "So now what, Roboute Guilliman? What are you going to do now?" "I am going to bring this world under Imperial control. New colonists from distant worlds are going to arrive. This city is going to bristle with life once more, and the citizens of the Imperium are going to live here in peace." "I like that. I would have loved to have seen it." Amanda again looked into the Primarch's eyes. "I am assuming that you are going to destroy me, for the crime of being a machine, not a human." Guilliman was always going to. He knew that from the moment he walked in the chamber. However, the calm acceptance and serenity in her false eyes was slightly saddening. In a way, it, was guilty of no crime and did not seem openly hostile. However, his father was right. The Mechanicum was right. Machines that think for themselves cannot be trusted, no matter how they appear. Guilliman donned his helm, and his normal voice was replaced by a vox-amplified one. "Yes, I am." "I would have liked to have seen this city live again. It would have been nice." Guilliman raised his bolter. "Goodbye, Roboute Guilliman." Guilliman fired 2 shots. One to the head, one to the chest. Then he switched his bolter to fully automatic and emptied the rest of the magazine upon the machines in the room. Guilliman turned and left the chamber without a word. Some days later, back aboard the Macragg's Honour, the Primarch looked down at the city below. He had his warriors destroy every last one of the machines in the city, and their use of EMPs from orbit fried anything electrical. The bones of the city would be able to be used again for colonists to call home, but the machines would not. The Mechanicum would be annoyed that they couldn't examine the technology, but Guilliman knew he made the right choice. Despite that, deep down, the machine's words did cling to him a little. All that talks of ethics and understanding humanity. It reminded him of talks with his brother Korax, discussing the finer points of ethics and morality for humanity. No, there would be time for such thoughts after the Crusade was over. The Primarch put the AI's words from his mind, and continued on with planning the next phase of the Great